I start cultivate to have my own basilicum and my own this kind of mint. And we have organic cultivation. Slowly we made it biodynamic. We have to leave something for our kids.
Where did this mega palace suddenly appear from? Atop an unassuming little hill in Kastelli lay buried an ancient wonder no one had ever seen before, until now. From its sudden discovery to its connection with ancient rituals, this new discovery in Greece is giving archaeologists a run for their money. Join us as we delve into the mystery surrounding a 4,000-year-old mega palace found on the Greek island of Crete. 1. The mysterious discovery. With the new Heraklion Airport project underway in Greece, the builders have come across a structure that is making it impossible to continue with their project. The word of archaeology brings its most recent discovery in the form of a 4,000-year-old stone structure that has been discovered in Kastelli, Greece. This circular building has become a major hurdle for the architects looking to turn the location into a new landing pad for tourists coming into Greece, considering it may have immense historical value. A deeper archaeological look into the origins of this strange place reveals that this structure may have been used by the ancient Minoan civilization to conduct their rituals and sacrifices. 2. Getting closer. This remarkable discovery has been made atop a hill near the town of Kastelli, about 32 miles southeast of Heraklion, the capital of Crete as we know it today. This happened while construction workers for the new Heraklion Airport were installing a surveillance radar system that would enable planes to land in the area. These men accidentally unearthed a unique structure that stood at 157 feet in diameter and had never been seen before. The ancient building features 8 superimposed stone rings intersected by small walls, creating a maze-like series of rooms. Representatives from the Greek Ministry of Culture have released a statement saying that the place looks like the legendary labyrinth built for King Minos of Crete. There appear to be 2 main zones in the structure, a central circular building with a diameter of about 49 feet and an area formed by radiating walls. Pottery fragments found during this excavation suggest that the building comes from as long ago as 2000 and 1700 BC, a period in the middle of the Minoan civilization. 3. The Minoan civilization. The Minoans, who thrived on Crete between about 3000 and 1100 BC, are known for creating one of the earliest complex cultures in Europe. They left behind intricate pottery, figurines, jewelry, and frescoes. However, their primary written language remains undeciphered to this day. These people, once completely forgotten after the collapse of their civilization, were brought back into the limelight in the early 20th century thanks to Sir Arthur Evans. He named the civilization after the mythic King Minos. The ancient palace of Knossos is the most famous example of their architecture, featuring a central open courtyard surrounded by numerous smaller rooms connected by corridors. Despite being termed palaces, these grand Minoan buildings were actually centers for local administrative functions rather than royal homes. The newly found structure near Kastelli, Crete, is also unlikely to have been a residence, as indicated by the Greek Ministry of Culture. The discovery of numerous animal bones suggests it was used for communal ritual feasts involving food, wine, and various offerings. 4. Comparisons to Knossos. Unlike the rectangular or square layouts of palaces like Knossos, this structure is circular, a design more commonly seen in Minoan tombs. Measuring 157 feet in diameter, the building features 8 concentric stone rings with small intersecting walls forming rooms, creating a labyrinth-like appearance. Excavations are still ongoing, so researchers are still unsure of the remainder of the building's complex shape and structure. There's no saying what is still to be unearthed. Plans have been set in motion to carry out further study in collaboration with the Greek Ministry of the Interior and the Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority, aiming to uncover more about the structure's purpose and to ensure its preservation for future research. 5. Minoan tombs. Travelers have a whole world of ancient Minoan sites they can still visit and learn about. The most popular of these are the various types of Minoan tombs. On the island of Crete, the Minoans practiced several types of burial methods, including cave burials, chamber tombs, and tholos tombs, each popular in different regions. This already indicates that this civilization was complex enough to have hierarchies and regional cultures and rites. The burial sites of each group were a reflection of the individual's lives, often containing personal belongings and special items meant especially for their experience in the afterlife. While some tombs were designed for individual burials, it was also pretty common for these ancient ancient Cretan tombs to be communal, serving as the final resting place for entire communities or specific clans. Let's dive into how each of these types of burials work. The grave goods found in Minoan burials and tombs were quite diverse, often reflecting the personal belongings of the deceased. Items such as pottery, stone vessels, tools, seals, weapons, and jewelry, all showing signs of regular use, were commonly interred with those who had passed. These objects indicate that they were personal possessions of the individuals. Additionally, food and drink were often included to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. In addition to everyday items, grave goods also included objects specifically made for funerary purposes. These items included small stone vases, impractical for daily use, and vessels shaped like animals or people. Archaeologists have determined that these items were created specifically for burial, as they are not found among household objects in excavations of Minoan towns and homes. 6. Cave burials. Out of all the funereal practices in ancient Minoan culture, cave burials were practiced as the earliest form of burial.
Is that anything in it? It's dark. Can't really see much over here. What's over here? Have a look. Oh my God, what's that?
Oh my God!
It's a human jawbone.
And we'll be next.
Let's get out of here, quick!
Dating back to the Neolithic era and preceding the later chamber or house tombs. These burials were more common in the eastern and western parts of Crete. In these communal graves, bodies were placed in small depressions within caves. Notable Minoan cave burials include those at Trapeza and Eurondamuri caves. These cave burials are very often found in a highly disordered state, with the bones of many individuals mixed together without any regard. This repeated burial in the same small areas, without regard for previous interments, caused the jumbling of bones. There is no significant evidence suggesting a cult of the deceased was practiced here, even though there are so many bodies seemingly discarded. 7. Communal burials. By this point, it's becoming clear that communal burials were more popular in ancient Greece than individual ones, especially if you weren't someone from the higher strata of that society. The earliest period of burials involved adding bodies to the same tomb over generations.
They have all been executed in the same manner, but they have been buried with respect. We are not talking about people who had a difficult life, such as slaves, nor people who are unknown to those who buried them.
A layer of white sand was used to cover each new set of remains. This method often resulted in the mixing of bones and grave goods from different individuals and generations, as the contents were frequently pushed aside to make space for new burials. The whole thing is pretty similar to the way geology works, in the sense that each passing generation becomes a lower layer of the ground than the last, giving rise to the argument that perhaps this was the most natural and earth-friendly way to say goodbye to those who have passed. 8. Pithoi and Larnax burials. At the start of the Middle Minoan period, burial practices in communal tombs began to evolve. While wooden coffins or biers were sometimes used, it became more common to bury individuals in stone or terracotta vessels called Larnax or Pithoi. Larnax burials, unique to Crete, involved placing human remains in oval-shaped stone, terracotta, or marble pots, which were then put into pits or tombs. Pithoi, similar to Larnax, were originally large pottery vessels used for storing food.
And as we went deeper, the four walls of a fairly small shaft began to emerge,
but were repurposed to accommodate the burials of children or infants. The variety in burial types was matched by the diversity of tombs used across Minoan Crete to house these interments. 9. Chamber tombs. These kinds of tombs were for some reason most common in the northern areas of Minoan Crete, appearing as they did in the earliest Minoan period. These tombs were typically circular or horseshoe-shaped, constructed with stone slabs and topped with flat roofs. Inside, the tombs had square or polygonal chambers, accessed through a threshold entrance sealed with a stone slab. Some believe these tombs were designed to mimic the houses of the living, serving as houses for the deceased. This idea is supported by similarities with contemporary domestic architecture. One example is the South Royal Tomb at Gypsades, near Knossos. This two-story structure features a courtyard, portico, antechamber, and a main chamber supported by pillars. Shortly after its construction, the entire complex was enclosed by a wall made of hard gray limestone blocks. These blocks, characterized by saw-cut marks and dowel holes from large drills, demonstrate advanced building techniques. They were repurposed from an older structure, likely from a different location, and probably not originally part of a tomb. In the second phase of construction at Chrysolakos, the area outside the eastern wall was elevated, which buried the older corridor and cult rooms. A paved area was added around the entire complex, complete with a colonnade featuring large square piers on the east side. Inside the main enclosure, new and sturdier walls were built to divide the grave chambers in a different way. Since there are no preserved entrances, it's thought that access to these chambers was probably the roof. 10. Tholos tombs. The Tholos tombs were prominent from the early to middle Minoan period and were most popular in central to southern Crete. There are 70 known examples of these circular tombs spread across 40 different sites on the island. These tombs, which were also common on the Greek mainland, featured a distinctive domed roof that gave them their name. Built with thick walls of rough stone bound with clay, the diameters of Cretan tholoi varied from 4 to 13 meters, with small, east-facing entrances. Typically, each tholos tomb was associated with a specific family group rather than an entire settlement. This is evident as multiple tombs in the same area were often in use simultaneously. Inside many tholos tombs, hundreds of burials were added without regard for earlier ones, leading to a mix of bones and grave goods. Signs of fire in some tombs suggest they were occasionally fumigated. Additionally, some tombs had layers of sterile white sand separating different burial layers, likely to clean the tomb floor. There is evidence that these tombs were periodically emptied, with the remains transferred to nearby ossuaries or bone storage structures. This practice helped manage the accumulation of remains within the tombs. 11. Kastelli. Let's zoom out a bit and take a look at the beautiful tourist destination that actually holds the Minoan sites. We're talking about none other than Kastelli itself. Kastelli Hill, overlooking the Venetian harbor, is a site with a deep historical significance in Chania, one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities. The hill, named after the Byzantine fortifications built there, has been inhabited for over 5,000 years. Throughout its history, Kastelli Hill served as a strategic headquarters for various rulers, including the Venetians and the Turks. Unfortunately, much of the district was destroyed by German bombings during World War II, leading to the loss of many old houses. However, this destruction had an unexpected benefit. As the rubble was cleared, pieces of Minoan pottery were discovered, revealing a significant Minoan site just below the surface. A long-term archaeological project conducted by a Greek-Swedish team from 1967 to 2001, later joined by a Danish team in 2010, has uncovered numerous buildings. These findings span nearly 5,000 years of Chania's history, from the transition between the Neolithic and Early Bronze Age, around 3000 BC, to the present day. Excavations are very much still in order, although residential homes built before the knowledge of the Minoans are making the whole endeavor quite difficult. If you haven't had enough of ancient Greece just yet, there's a whole variety of places you can still choose from. 12. Sanctuary of Olympia. We're moving to the very place where Hercules is known to have performed many of his daunting labors, the Olympic Stadium or the Sanctuary of Olympia. This should also hint at why the Olympics are named as such. Primarily a religious site, Olympia was dedicated to Zeus and other gods. For over 1,000 years, it housed the magnificent Temple of Zeus, built in the 5th century BC. Inside this temple stood an extraordinary statue of Zeus, made of gold and ivory, which was considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Temple of Zeus remained intact until earthquakes in the 6th century BC caused its columns to completely fall apart. Today, you'll see the fallen columns scattered on the ground, clearly indicating that they were constructed from stacked fluted limestone drums held together with square pegs.
So it's called the Sanctuary of Olympia.
Yes, but it was primarily a religious place dedicated to Zeus and the rest of the gods, with temples all over. And it was only open to people during the games for over 1,000. Inside this temple was that amazing statue of Zeus, which was considered to be one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Gold and ivory towering in the temple that made the Greeks lose their minds by seeing Zeus alive in front of them. This was one of their chances to meet the
13. The Olympic Games.
Which will now remain lit for the duration of the 2024 Games. A fire symbolic of the Olympic values of peace and friendship between nations.
Competition.
This same fire was then used to ignite the French Olympic torch in the hands of the first.
As the ancient Olympic Games grew in popularity, they attracted athletes from all over the Greek world to compete in various events. These included javelin, discus, boxing, sprints of different lengths, and even a 2-stadium sprint performed naked with armor. If you thought these sports were absurd, this should make you think again. The games aim to unify the Greeks, strengthen their culture, and teach young men essential military skills the same way today they exist to unify the world. The current Olympic Games are held every 4 years, and this tradition itself has its grounds in Greek mythology. The ancient games were also held every 4 years for nearly 12 centuries until they were banned in 393 AD by the Roman Emperor Theodosius I, who sought to suppress such pagan festivals. Olympia also had classrooms where Greek philosophy was taught, further enriching Greek culture. This is probably why PE is something that's added to your school curriculum. 14. Epidavros. Epidavros, steeped in ancient Greek mythology, is famously associated with the healing god Asclepios, who was believed to be the son of Apollo and born in this very place. It's renowned as the most popular healing center of antiquity. During the 4th and 3rd centuries BC, the Romans expanded and partly reconstructed the sanctuary. The original sanctuary of Apollo Maliadas could no longer accommodate the growing number of visitors, leading to the creation of the sanctuary of Asclepios. The Asclepieion of Epidaurus was known for its wise and careful physicians, as evidenced by numerous records found in Greek museums. These records detail the famous 70 miracles attributed to Asclepios, a whole bunch of other diseases that were cured here. The sanctuary also included a temple, dormitories, and baths designed to aid in patient recovery. Bath treatments were particularly beneficial for those with skin disorders, who also had access to a gym for additional therapies. 15. The Ancient Theater. In 551 and 522 AD, 2 major earthquakes caused significant damage to the sanctuary. Over time, wars, attacks, and natural disasters led to its complete destruction. In the late 19th century, archaeologists excavated the sanctuary of Asclepios and the ancient theater. The theater is famous for its exceptional acoustics, allowing voices to be heard clearly even in the last row. It can accommodate about 14,000 spectators. It's truly way ahead of its time. After antiquity, Epidavros fell into decline. During the Middle Ages, a medieval castle was built in Nea Epidavros village to protect the region from enemies. Epidavros regained significance in the early 19th century. When the first Greek revolutionary government was established there, along with the first Greek constitution in 1822. Today, Epidavros is a popular archaeological site. The ancient theater still hosts performances of ancient dramas during summer festivals today. 16. The Acropolis of Athens. The Acropolis of Athens and its monuments are considered universal symbols of classical civilization today, standing as a testament to the architectural and artistic prowess of the ancient Greeks. In the second half of the 5th century BC, Athens rose to prominence among other city-states after its victory over the Persians and the establishment of democracy. This period marked a golden age of thought and art. During this time, a group of skilled artists, under the leadership of the Athenian statesman Pericles and the guidance of the sculptor Phidias, transformed the rocky hill of the Acropolis into a remarkable monument of human thought and creativity. Key structures built during this era include the Parthenon, designed by the architect Ictinus, and dedicated to the goddess Athena, the Erechtheion with its distinctive caryatid porch, the Propylaea, a grand entrance designed by Menesicles, and the Temple of Athena Nike, a small temple celebrating Athena as the bringer of victory. And yes, that's where the name Nike comes from. 17. Mykonos. This enchanting Greek island combines stunning natural beauty, rich history, and vibrant nightlife, making it a perfect getaway for travelers of all kinds. From the lively atmosphere of Paradise and Super Paradise Beach, where music and parties last all day and night, to the more tranquil settings of Agios Sostis and Phokos Beach, there's a perfect spot for everyone. It's truly a modern wonderland. But what if we told you that right by Mykonos lies an epicenter of utter antiquity, a tiny island that may be the most important mythological, historical, and archaeological site in Greece? 18. Delos. Delos, an island with signs of human activity dating back to the 3rd millennium BC, was once inhabited by Carian pirates, as noted by Thucydides. They were eventually driven driven out by King Minos of Crete. Delos gained renown as the birthplace of the twin gods Apollo and Artemis, a distinction celebrated in the Odyssey. Between 900 BC and 100 AD, Delos flourished as a major religious hub, dedicated to the worship of Dionysus and Leto, the mother of Apollo and Artemis. Pilgrims from the Ionian world frequented the island. The Athenians undertook several purifications to sanctify the island, such as relocating graves and prohibiting births and burials to preserve its sacred and neutral status. This led to the establishment of the Delian Games, held every 5 years. Today, Delos is a popular tourist destination, offering visitors the chance to ditch the modern Mykonos and step back in time into the rich history and cultural significance of the Greek islands. 19. Kerameikos Cemetery in Athens. Kerameikos, commonly known as Athens' ancient cemetery, originally began as a hub for potters and vase painters. Its name comes from the Greek word for pottery, highlighting its role as a key production center for Attic vases. The area's rich clay deposits from the river Eridanos attracted these ancient craftsmen. However, due to frequent river flooding, much of Kerameikos was transformed into a burial ground, eventually becoming Athens' most famous cemetery. The cemetery dates all the way back to the early Bronze Age, around 1000 BC, and was continuously used until the early Christian period in the 4th to 6th centuries AD. Excavations starting in 1870 have revealed much about Athenian life and art. The construction of the Themistoclean Wall split Kerameikos into 2 parts. The outer section continued as a cemetery, while the inner section became residential. Today, Kerameikos is a fascinating site for visitors, featuring impressive funerary architecture and sculptures. The on-site museum displays personal artifacts like makeup boxes and sandals, offering a glimpse into ancient daily life. 20. Mycenae. Mycenae is an ancient city located on a small hill between 2 larger hills on the fertile Argolid plain in Peloponnese, Greece. The Bronze Age Acropolis is one of the great cities of the Mycenaean civilization that played a vital role in classical Greek culture. While the origins of the city are unknown, the citadel has an intricate backstory in Greek mythology. 21. The Citadel of Mycenae. Perseus, the famed hero and son of Zeus and Danae, is celebrated as the founder of Mycenae. Danae was the daughter of Acrisio, the king of Argos. When Perseus departed from Argos for Tiryns, he enlisted the help of giant cyclopses to build the formidable walls of Mycenae with stones so massive that no human could lift them. The naming of Mycenae is also legendary. One story tells of Perseus's cap, or myces in Greek, falling from his scabbard, which he took as a sign of good fortune. Another tale suggests he found a much-needed water spring after lifting a mushroom, also translated as myces from the ground, to quench his thirst. The Perseid dynasty ruled Mycenae for 3 generations, concluding with Eurystheus, who is known in myth for assigning Hercules his 12 famous tasks. Following Eurystheus's demise in battle, Atreus rose to power. Mycenae's most renowned figure is Agamemnon, Atreus's son. Agamemnon is immortalized in mythology and by Homer's epic, the Iliad, as the leader of the Greek forces during the Trojan War. You know, the one with the horse. 22. Ancient Agora. The Agora was the center of Athenian democracy, where the city's most crucial political activities took place and where historical figures like Pericles and Socrates once walked. Located in the shadow of the Acropolis and surrounded by natural beauty, the Agora today offers visitors a chance to explore its well-preserved ruins. Key sites include the Temple of Hephaestus, one of the best-preserved temples of ancient Greece, and the restored Stoa of Attalos. The Agora housed many important buildings and structures. Notable among these were the Bouleuterion, where the city council convened, and the Tholos, which served as the headquarters for the executive committee. Beyond its political significance, the Agora was actually a pretty common and bustling hub for daily life. It hosted markets where vendors sold goods ranging from food to pottery and was the site of festivals, religious ceremonies, and public speeches. This should tell you that politics back then wasn't just reserved for the elite, it was pretty intertwined with public life. Which of these sites are you itching to go see first?
The largest Greek island harbours great positive energy. Nothing should be allowed to interfere with that, not even climate change. That's why 2 scientists, Ioannis Staliakopoulos and Anahiros Sideris, are working on a project to help the agricultural sector weather the effects of global warming.
Hello.
Hello.
Τι κάνεις, πώς πάει εδώ πέρα? I think yeah, everything's fine. I'm checking to see if the connections are solid.
Crete is the largest and most southern island of Greece, and I was drawn to visit this beautiful island because of its incredibly diverse landscapes, rich history dating back thousands of years, and strong cultural traditions that are still practiced today. Crete is divided into 4 regions. From the western side is Harnia, then Rhythmno, then Heraklion, also the name and location of Crete's capital city, and finally Lassithi in the east. In this series, I'll be travelling across the island and learning all about the culture and history of each one of these regions.